Good evening, everyone. I'm Rakhi Gautam from greytHR, the moderator for the session today. I welcome you all today to our 75th episode of the Parichay webinar series. And the topic for today is enhancing employee value proposition to attract and retain top talent. Now, before I dive into the topic, let's do a little housekeeping on how the session goes. So the session is divided into two parts. The first part will be the discussion with our experts, which will then be followed by an audience Q&A. So I can say audience Q&A is where time is all yours. You can put across your questions in the Zoom control panel that you can see on your screen, and we will take them up towards the end. Also, the session is currently being recorded. So if you happen to miss out on anything, do not worry at all. We've got you covered. We will share the recording with you once it is done. And also, this session will be uploaded on our greytHR's official YouTube channel under the playlist Parichay. So you can always go there and watch the session there. So I think we have the quorum with us today to start the session. Today, we will explore how a strong EVP can significantly influence recruitment, retention, and overall employee satisfaction. We'll delve into the key components of a robust EVP, discuss how to align it with organizational goals, and examine its impact on employee engagement and morale. Additionally, we'll also look ahead to future trends in EVP with insights and strategies from three esteemed HR leaders who are joining us today. They are Ms. Aritra Sarkar, Mr. Aravind, Warrier, and Ms. Divya Agarwal. Let me quickly take you all through their profiles. Can we have? Okay. So first up, we have Aritra Sarkar, Director People Development at GlobalLogic. Aritra is an HR leader with almost 18 years of rich experience in the talent management space. Her core competencies include developing innovative and contemporary HR strategies that significantly impact profitability, culture, and employee experience. She combines strategic planning, business acumen, and subject matter expertise to focus on building a future ready organization. She has experience and expertise in talent transformation, leadership development, digitization, employer branding, and policy formulation for enhanced employee experience. So, first of all, thank you so much for joining us today, Aritra. Really appreciate your presence here.
Thank you so much, Rakhi. Glad to be here at the 75th episode. I'm feeling proud about it. Thank you.
Okay, moving on, we have Aravind Warrier from HR lead from Volvo. Aravind is an HR professional with over 18 years of rich experience. He's worked in multiple sectors like information technology, manufacturing, and pharmaceuticals in leading MNCs. He currently heads the HR department and works very closely with the leadership team in managing mission critical projects and assignments. He's been pivotal in providing a strategic perspective to the organization. He's also a motivational speaker and also serves as an advisory member for many leading business schools across India. Thank you so much, Aravind, for joining us. Glad to have you here with us today.
I am humbled and honored, Jackie, and the entire greytHR team. So it's my pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And we have with us Ms. Divya Agarwal, Head Talent Acquisition and Employer Branding at ID Fresh Foods. Ms. Divya heads Talent Acquisition and Employer Branding at ID Fresh Foods. She's passionate about executive search, meeting talent, hiring needs, and leading high-performance teams. With over 10 years of rich experience across various industry verticals, including SaaS, FMCG, retail, manufacturing, e-commerce, automotive, consulting, and startups, Divya has expertise in global talent acquisition, talent management, and strategy, C-suite leadership hiring, employer branding, business partnering, and scaling businesses. Thank you so much, Divya, to you as well for joining us today. It's a pleasure to have you here with us today.
Thank you so much, Rakhi. Pleasure is equally mine to be a part of the session. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Now that we are done with the introductions, and I must say, I can say this for all, that we've gotten the perfect people with us today on this forum together to discuss on the employee value proposition that we have. But before we start the discussion, I have a poll questions for the audience today here. Let me quickly launch this poll, and I would urge each and every one of you to participate in this, because this will help us understand what is it that you are looking to get most out of this session today. Here I go. So the question is, what is the biggest challenge your organization faces in developing a strong EVP? You can see some 5 options which are available there. This is not a right or a wrong question. This is something that you might have been facing in your organization. So let us help us understand what is it that you're looking forward to today. Okay, we have 40% participation already. I would urge the rest of you to also participate. This will set the context for our discussion today. Okay, another 30 seconds. Okay, I think we can end the poll now. We have the majority of you have shared the options. Let me share the result with all of you so that we understand what is it that we're looking for today. So difficulty aligning with organizational goals get the most options, which is 33%, followed by limited resources at 29%, lack of clear vision at 17%, inconsistent messaging at 10%, and there's also other at 11%. Okay, thank you so much for sharing this. I'm sure with today's discussion that we have, we should be able to solve some of your problems and share strategies that can help you align your EVP strategy. So let me start with Aritra. My first question to you is, there's a research from Gartner that indicates that organizations with a clear EVP have a 31% lower voluntary turnover rate. So what key elements do you believe are crucial in developing a compelling EVP? Because we see that if we have a clear EVP, there's less turnover rate.
Right, thanks, Rama. So very interesting poll, actually, it's very unexpected in terms of, what we got the results as. But however, we are going to talk more about it today. So thanks again for the opportunity. So see, developing a compelling EVP, that is employee value proposition, is very, very key, very essential for retaining our top talent, engaging and attracting them as well, right? So few very key elements which I always keep in mind that, while we have these leadership discussions, the leadership platforms and forums in our organizations, we always talk about EVP a lot, and it constantly we are adapting and making changes and customizing. We are going to discuss more about as the session progresses, but few key things which I have in mind, which I want to let the entire group know, is the first and foremost and the utmost thing which is important is to develop a positive work environment culture within the organization. Now I can just say that it's a positive work environment and culture. What defines it is equally important. Like we are now talking nowadays about a hybrid work culture. So is it providing us the right work-life balance? So this is important. Promoting the right processes, policies within the organization that supports the work-life balance, the flexible working hours, the remote work options, and many other things. Based on the role expectations, responsibilities, companies have to take calls accordingly, right? So it is utmost important for building a strong EVP. Now comes with that the inclusiveness. The inclusiveness in the culture is equally important. Like fostering a diverse and inclusive workforce is important. Employees need to feel valued and respected most of the time, and right, and that is important. And other key thing which I have in mind is appreciating the work time and again, not every time, not by the monetary way, but however, little bit of appreciation, recognition matters, and this is important. The second thing which I have in mind is the support from the leadership teams, right? A supportive leadership is extremely important. Like leadership has to be approachable, they need to be supportive, right? They need to invest their time in the development of their team members. So it's extremely important that we get the right support from the leadership and the management team. And the third utmost thing which is there in my mind is which was one part of the poll as well, that having a very transparent communication, maintaining the open and honest communication channels between employees and the management is extremely, extremely important. Now, when we talk about so many things as part of the EVP, there are multiple parameters and key elements of EVPs, right? So, few key things I did let you know that it's extremely important that we keep these in mind while developing or creating the EVPs for the organization. And over and above the employer branding, right? How do we form an employer brand, right? Building a strong employer brand is equally important, and it reflects the the company values, the mission, the culture, all reflects in the employer brand. It is important, right? We ensure we say that I'm part of the people development team, right? So we always talk about developing our people, right? So job security, right? It's equally important, right? Amidst the huge, turmoil which we went through during the COVID, afterwards the recession, etc., which is ongoing still in some form or the other. The security of people, the communicating that the employer is stable and its growth prospect is equally important. These are the few elements which I have in mind, Ramya, which is extremely important. And when I say that these key elements are key, are really significant, we need to have the implementation. How do we implement these? It cannot be verbal, it cannot be word of mouth, or it cannot be just a policies and process, right? So equal research, taking feedback from people, having a customized approach, which I spoke about in the beginning, and having a consistent communication amongst your people, amongst your employees, is extremely important to have a strong EBP for an organization. And I believe these are key, and I'm open to take questions or my fellow colleagues to even chime in as they want to be. Thanks.
Sure. Thank you so much, Aritra, for that. That was very helpful. And I hope everybody has taken notes because, when we talk about EVP, it is first to understand how, having an EVP, of course, helps in the organizational growth. And in order to have that organizational growth and provide that kind of, culture to the employees, it's very important to have that, elements in your EVP. You talked about, having a flexible work culture, having a good work culture, having the leadership or team involved with employees across teams at there could be a fresher also joining or a c-suite. It's important that leadership is present, leadership involvement is there within the teams. You talked about having an inclusive and diverse work culture, which is, I think, it's now more than ever that it's important that we acknowledge that we have employees from different diverse cultures and areas coming in. So we have to create that inclusive work culture as well. Transparent communication is another thing because we could do a lot of these things. We could have leadership development, we involvement, we could have a good work culture. We can say that it's a work culture which is good, but until you communicate that to the employees, until they are aware of the policies that are there in the organization, they wouldn't know the benefits of it, or what is it that you're getting out of here. So it's very important to have a clear communication, transparent communication with all these employees, which of course not just helps in creating a compelling EVP, but also helps in creating a good employer branding for your company. So thank you so much for sharing that, Aritra. This is sort of a follow-up question that I have now for Arvind. You talked about employer branding, right? And a lot of us, before applying to any companies or organizations, we always tend to look at the social media or tend to see their reviews on these employer organizational review sites. So we go there and see, okay, what is it that people are talking about the company. So in fact, according to a 2023 LinkedIn survey, 69% of job seekers consider a company's EVP before applying for a position. So when they look for the EVP, of course, the whole employer branding comes into picture. So I want to understand from you, Arvind, how has this trend impacted your recruitment strategies? How you hire people? How, what is it that you try to do? While creating these recruitment strategies as well, keeping the EVP picture in mind.
Awesome. Uh, just add on to what Arita said. Actually, I think I'm also stealing your words. Also, the compelling thing which is very important. Most important thing is, I'll just bring in a new dimension actually. Employment value proposition, employee value proposition, employer value proposition. I think we should change it to experience value proposition, because we are talking about Generation Z. The Generation Z is getting infused in the workforce. So that is also bringing a new way of thought in the existing workforce. It's not going to be the same, because the most important thing you look at, anyone right now joining the workforce, especially the millennials or Generation Z, or anyone for that matter, they're asking, why should I join your organization? And EVP, the experience value proposition, is the answer, because we cannot say that same employment. Because if you look at the experience value proposition, as rightly said by Aritra, it's the question is, what is there for me? And that what is there for me needs to be answered in terms of, at least for me, at least I just have 6 views of that. I mean, probably 5 lenses, which again, it's from a research, basically in terms of the deeper connections you have. Because if you look at, more than spending time with your family, the person, the employee, let it be anyone, is spending more time in office, considering the so-called traffic. So the deeper connections, or I would say a deeper connection from the so-called work relationship. Next, another lens is from the so-called work, wherein is the work providing me a lot of flexibility or autonomy to contribute? You look at anyone these days, they're looking for 3 things: value, impact, and contribution. That's your so-called performance management metrics. But the most of the generations that they also want to see, is the work so challenging? Is it giving me a lot of flexibility and autonomy to contribute? Third lens, if you look at, which I think Arthur was also correctly saying, it's basically my personal growth. And I think that is also one of the basic research findings in World Economic Council also, wherein they look at what is there for me in terms of my career growth. Can I expand in both horizontally and vertically? It's not just I get promotions. Can I have an intellectual simulation, which really gives me that challenge? You look at the generations that they are not only just looking for the salary, is it giving me some kind of intellectual simulation so that I can contribute to the whole piece of the organization's purpose? Now, the most important, another few 2 acts would be in terms of holistic well-being. I think after COVID, a lot of emphasis, and this is not something a tick mark exercise wherein we say that we have gyms here or recreations. It's basically in terms of the holistic, financial, mental well-being also. And last but not the least, the most important piece is basically the so-called generations that also looks at whether the purpose is big, whether it's not about joining the big organizations, but am I part of the whole piece where I can contribute to the big cause? And that's why the CSR aspects, the ESG aspects, and other aspects also play into the whole scheme of things. So I think going forward, just not looking at the so-called this work or the rewards per se, we should be looking at this whole environment in which do you have deeper relations which can be set from the manager side. And that's why we need performance leaders now, coaching leaders now, in terms of the work, which really gives them the flexibility to really bring that kind of innovation to the table than what is being written on the walls, or the autonomy and freedom, the so-called empowerment word, and the growth in terms of the intellectual simulation and the holistic well-being, and being part of the whole scheme of things, which is the purpose, which we have been speaking a lot. That's my 2 cents. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Aravind, for that. That was very intellectual, I must say, because you talked about how when we say that we are going to we work on our recruitment strategies, we have to work on how when they look at the JD also, or when they look at our website or social media, they should know, okay, this company stands for this. This is the whole picture. This is how I contribute to my overall company's growth, the goals that they have. You talked about CSR activities. If we provide this kind of clear picture to our probable employees, they should be, of course, I think they should be a little more inclined than they would be in an organization where there's no transparency, where there's no clear picture of what is it that they are doing, what is the bigger impact that they are going to have at the end of the day. Because you talked about some reports, right? Yes, I think there was one report by Harvard Business Review, if I'm not wrong, where they talked about employees are not looking for salaries, which was your first point today. They're looking at the growth that they are going to get, or the bigger impact that they're able to create with the work that they're doing. Because salaries you can get. We have been seeing a lot of memes that, okay, when you switch very frequently, your salary automatically, gets a hike. But when you stay, I'm not saying, of course, that you have to stay within one organization, but if that organization is providing you growth opportunities where you are able to, grow in your career, you are able to create impact with your work, I think that encourages employees more, and they would want to, stay in your organization, which is our topic for today, how to retain top talent as well. So,
Lucky, sorry to intervene again. I think the best tools you can think of is in terms of E and F or F and D, which I am just trying to steal it from Arita again. It's in terms of having the right feedback, and most important thing is your expectation setting. The Generation Z needs. I'm not that. I'm not. I'm only speaking about Generation Z, but as they are entering the so-called your workforce, the most important thing is expectation setting from the day one. And as you rightly said, if they are not able to see the bigger picture, they'll say, thank you very much, I'm just joining, because they want to showcase that I am also part of the so-called organization and my 2 cents of contribution really matters. That's why value, impact, and contribution are the new metrics, and that's a new game. Thank you.
Definitely. I can say this for all that we agree with you on this point, and I hope everybody here in the audience are also taking notes. This was very valuable. I'm going to move on to the next question, which is for Divya. Now, this is like a follow-up question again. There's when we talk about EVP, or when we talk about talent, retaining top talent, there are a lot of factors that came in into the picture. We talked about employee well-being, employee when they provide a holistic experience to the employees. So, like a follow-up question that I have for you, Divya, is if you could share some examples of how you think a strong EVP has or can improve employee retention in an organization.
Sure.
We did delve upon this, but
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. I think I'm just adding on to what Aritra and Aravind have spoken about, because it's just a debating question, right? Wherein you have a lot of things to add up.
Yeah.
I mean, retention is one of the most important metrics to measure of any organization who has a strong EVP, right? So it's one of the most important measure, right? Retention, or maybe the offer acceptance ratio, or maybe in the employee satisfaction. A lot of things, but retention, one of the most important measure, right? And if I have to talk about examples, I think there are a number of examples which would be there in my company, which has enhance the, increase the retention of the people, but small things, right? I work in a company which provides chemical-free food to the people, right? And that's what the ethics and that's what the value we live by. In fact, a lot of people, ID Fresh, everybody must be knowing about this organization. How we differ from other companies is we give chemical-free products to the company, and that's the value we serve by, right? We foster by the culture of empowerment, or continuous improvement, and driving innovation. In fact, if I have to compare, with other food tech organizations, be it like HUL or ITC or PNG, other organizations, we want to become in next 2 years the world-class food tech company, right? And if I have to talk, if I have to talk about the workforce which are there in our in our organization, they are living with a purpose. That's what Aravind said, that it's not always about monetary, or it's not about everything. It's about the kind of purpose you want to serve. And there are people who are working on minimum wages as well, right? But they are serving in our company just because they are working for the purpose that, hey, we are providing, or we are serving world-class food products to the company, right? So this is one of the most important thing. In fact, we are one of the most important first organization in the country who is providing ESOPs as a to the blue-collar employees. Otherwise, you'll not. In most of the organizations, you'll see ESOPs given only to the white-collared employees. But in our organization, we give blue-collared employees also the ESOP. Small things, but makes a huge difference, right? Because we value people, and these people, value our purpose as well, right? So not just this, I think, apart from all these, the miscellaneous things which I talk about, maybe the wellness programs or the career development opportunities, giving a lot of opportunities for them to grow, flexibility, all these things are there. But most importantly, the purpose, right? And I think that has definitely contributed to the high retention. And EVP is changing, right? Maybe today it's innovation, maybe probably in the upcoming 6 months, it's going to be different, right? Maybe it can be DNI, or it can be continuous improvement, or it can be sustainability, right? So I think we need to be all aware in terms of what the market is trending, how we have to, and we need to revisit our EVPs, right? It's not always about today's sustainability or today's innovation. It's not going to be the same. That's how we are revisiting as well, as in how how it can improve our metrics. Maybe today is 20%, it has to go 40%, right? So all these small things is making a huge difference for sure. Yeah, yeah.
Definitely. Thank you so much, Divya, for sharing the anecdote as well. I think it helps us relate more, understand more when we see these real case studies happening where companies are not providing just the monetary benefits, but there are a lot of other things that contribute to the overall employee well-being, and they feel connected, they feel that they belong, they feel that they are able to create an impact, they're working for a purpose. So these are, of course, all the things that help us retain top talent in an organization. Thank you so much for sharing that. Again, moving to my next question to Aritra. Again, like a follow-up question, but yes, we did touch upon this, with Arvind, where he highlighted that it's important that we know how I am as a fresher also, going to contribute to the overall objective that the company has. So while creating the EVP, how can we ensure that our EVP aligns with the overall goals and values that are there?
Right, thanks again, Rama. So yes, this needs to be thought about, while forming the EVPs as well, that, how do we ensure that it aligns with the overall goals and values of the organization for sure, right? So the most important thing over here, Ramya, which I can think about it, irrespective of how you develop your EBP, the buy-in from the top management, involvement of the leadership is extremely, extremely important because top leadership always has to stay committed, right? And get involved in the development. And of course, parallelly, they need to communicate the same as well. So, ideally, what I believe is involving the leadership and their stakeholders in while formulating the EVPs is extremely important. Now, engaging them, and including all support functions, including operations, including all departments in formulating this compelling EVP is extremely important. Now, I have mentioned this earlier as well that, while communication is key, passing on the right communication consistently is the word which I can use at this point of time while I respond to your question. Consistent messaging is key. That, we have formulated the key elements. Now, next is what? Now is consistently messaging it to our people about it, to letting the people know that what our company values are and what we are trying to do and investing our time upon, be it their career, be it their work environment, or be it recognition. The messaging has to be consistent because this helps in the long run, right? So today I am doing a lot. I being the lead for my team, I'm doing a lot for the employees, right? So I am trying to work with multiple stakeholders to make it happen. To name, I'm working with the learning team to ensure that they are upskilled, right? The certain certifications are being done. The project delivers in time. The demands of the customers are met, right? I'm consistently working with them, but is the messaging spreading across that what we are investing at this consistent messaging? I just give an example. There may be many more. We form a policy, right? Any policy we can talk about. We have formed recently, and was it communicated well? Was it branded well amongst our people, right? We can have built testimonials around that, people who are utilizing that, people who have benefited it, passing on the messaging. So coming back to your question, consistently messaging is important. Communicating transparently and authentically is important. And third important thing is regularly adapting and customizing our EVP based on the unique needs of our people. Today, our Gen Zs are there, as Arvind rightly mentioned, that we are working for, the new generations as well. The Gen Zs are mostly they are adapting to the Instagrammatic way. That's what we call, right? They are all, instant things are required. They cannot wait till ages for something to happen. If they need something, they need it right away, right? How can we customize and make that happen for them? So we have to be adaptable while formulating our policies as well, which is important. So adaptability is key as well. So when I reflect back to your question which you asked now, that how does the EVP align with the overall goals and values? It is these three things: involving the top management across involving the top management in communicating our EVPs, our goals, our values, consistently and transparently messaging it out, and of course, regularly adapting to the new EVPs as well based on the needs of the different masses of people whom we have. So these are extremely key, Rakhi, to answer your question.
Sure. Thank you so much, Aritra, for that. Of course, we completely agree with what you said. And one thing that really stood out to me was the consistent, regular maybe feedback that we have to take from the employees and then make changes accordingly if required. Because something which was there maybe in 2019 was definitely not working for us in the early of 2020, 21, right? So, and now something which was there in 2021 may not be working for us right now, and something that is working for us right now might not be working for us in another 6 months. So it's very important to be aware of what is happening, first of all, to consistently take employee feedback, take feedback from the top leadership management as well, and then make the changes accordingly. Because as we said, everything is keeps evolving. And when we say when we expect employees to change and learn about new technologies, as an organization also it's very important that we introspect, we take feedbacks, and we also make changes necessary wherever required. So thank you so much for sharing that, Aritra.
And I think,
Now
just
moving
to
on.
add, and I think just to
Yes.
add consistency, when I say, I think just to add on Karitra's point, it's about whatever we are doing internally, we need to showcase that to the social media as well, right? Otherwise, people in the outer world doesn't know what you're doing it, right? And sometimes it may dilute your, EVP if you're not showcasing what you're doing. You might be doing n number of wellness activities or n number of rewards and recognitions, but if it's not going to the outer world, maybe you are very much aggressive this month, and if it's not going next month, then it's diluting your overall EVP. So, right, continuous feedback plus, I think, consistency in what you're showcasing to the outer world is something I feel it's really more important again. Yeah.
Completely agree with you on that, because as I said, the title was to attract and retain top talent. So when we do a lot of internal communication, of course we are able to retain talent, but when we have to attract talent with the questions that we had in the first round, which was employer branding, people looking up to your website and social media and seeing the kind of work that you're doing. So it's very important that you also communicate it to the outer world, so they're also aware and you get good people in your organization. So thank you so much for all your valuable inputs here. Now moving
Raki,
on to
Raki, I don't know whether you will permit me, but still, I couldn't resist.
Sure.
I just happened to steal again Aritra's point and Divya's point. Most important thing is you communicate. But if you happen to see, if you happen to see, as rightly said by Aritra, everything the generations that is so much hooked to the so-called world of Instagrams. So seeing is believing. So we should have a lot of things around something called a role modeling. Let's assume innovation is there, means we should definitely, when you're hitting say generation Z in the colleges environment or anywhere else, the innovation factor should be shown, because something which gets registered here, they'll start speaking. And that again, as rightly said by Divya in the first instance, it is not something innovation stands like this today. Innovation keeps on changing, and that change, which is something which can be seen, would help the EVP. Can be, if you really ask me whether the EVP was successful, is basically when people really believe in it, and that only happens when you can showcase through some of the examples. You look at our own generation, we remember a lot of things because our grandparents used to say a lot of storytelling, and EVP is an act of storytelling where you say this is something we believe in, and as a leadership commitment, because your first point 17% was saying vision, but vision with committed leadership on the ground. Let them see it, let the role model happen, because we speak a lot of these gyans in the all these colleges, but then this is something which has to be shown, because you look at Generation Z, they're always in mobile, they're hooked to the mobile. So let these things, something which can really reinforce these kind of, you say about passion, you say about the purpose, you say about innovation, you say about trust, or any kind of these things, they really need to see it. That reinforces the fact, that spreads out the communication instantly also. Sorry. Thanks.
No, it's all valuable. Please, this makes the conversation more interesting and insightful when we have different perspectives all together. Uh, Telling us the same point, which is how to create a compelling EVP. And with
Okay.
any kind of activity that we do, right? Since the very day a child is born, he goes to the school. There's preschool, then high school, all that school cycle, then college, university. or during the whole time we keep tracking the progress, right? And then it shows us the result, okay, if this is working or not. Same thing that we apply in our organizations as well. Whenever we create something, it's very important that we track the metrics of it, how it is, that is, if the whoever is your target audience, how they're perceiving it, how they're consuming it, and if they're able to believe it or not. So it's important, of course. Thank you so much for highlighting this point, that as much as you're going to communicate it, it's also important to come back and see the result of the kind of impact it was able to create. So thank you so much for that, Aravind. Now, just a follow-up question to this. I'm loving this conversation today, which is, we talked about creating EVPs, how it helps in employee retention, employer branding. What are the key elements to keep in mind? Just to, just a add-on question, which is how it can help in employee engagement and morale as well, because we've been talking about how important it is to showcase this and do a lot of activities, or tell people that we care for them, tell our employees that we care for them. But how does it also help in their employee engagement? Because these days a lot of us are working remotely also. So while we are communicating through screen, are we able to create the same kind of engagement with the employee? Is he or she or they are satisfied with the work that they are being asked to do, or that they've been able to deliver? So how can it help in employee engagement as well?
Okay, employee engagement. See, again, I'll just tell you. Uh, let's assume engagement in terms of, let's see, if it is appealing. Let's assume, I'll just take few lenses. Once, let's assume if the engagement is just an outcome, again, if you happen to see the experience, engagement, these are all perceived value by the so-called the employee, or for us, our so-called stakeholder. Most important thing is, if the so-called EVP is something which is generating value in terms of his or her growth, or which is really giving him elevation from X to at least 5X, or 2X, that is where the first set of engagement happens. So that means the appealing factor, the whether it is really, and as rightly said, it's just something consistent. The communication has to be consistent and very relevant, which is very important. The second piece is basically it has to be appealing in terms of how you sell it, because everyone is selling it. Whether it is really appealing is something which you should do a lot of focus group discussions to understand, whether it is something which is really giving me that experience. Second, the add-on to that is basically whether it's really relevant in terms of the organization, because I think most, the 31% or 32% is it's not aligned with the organization goal. But and then you see, because X company is doing it, let me also do it. But is it really relevant in your organization context and situation? Then it again gives an engagement pitch. Third, the most important, which I feel, is in terms of being authentic. Let's not say big things. If you have it, you say it. Otherwise, it's better keep silence. Some things it's better to keep silence. If X companies has 10 value proposition points, let me also have the 11th one. Sorry, let's not do it. If it's 2, let's do it. And as I firmly believe, as leaders, your action speaks more than your words. And the so-called, any, for that matter, any kind of generation, the authenticity of the communication content really matters. Last but not the least, differentiate it not in terms of the big style, differentiate it in the terms of the content what you speak, as it's in tune with the authenticity. So for me, at least, if you have to make it really engaging, it should be really, first thing is in terms of, I can put RAED, RAD. First is relevance, very important in the context of the organization. Appealing is in terms of the USP, or what a unique selling position is, what I would say. Third most important A would be in terms of authenticity, and that leaders walk the talk is something very important. If you feel that is relevant, just put it. If innovation is not required, don't put it. And last but not the least, differentiate it from the crowd by being authentic. That's my thoughts around this.
This really helps, and I don't want to comment anything on it, because I don't want to take away the limelight from that rad that you talked about, right? So I want that to stick with people. But of
Thank you.
course, this really helps, and this is something which is very important. The points that you highlighted, we can always talk about the n number of things that we are doing, but is it relevant for the people that you're doing it for? Is it relatable to them? Do they find value in it? Is something that we really need to think upon. So thank you so much, Aravind, for that.
Most importantly, are you following that? For example, a lot of companies are promoting D&I, but when you check with the internal stakeholders, they're like, we don't want to hire a female salesperson, right? Simple. very simple. You might be
Walk the
promoting a lot
talk.
of things, but you're not doing it. Yeah. So rightly said. Rightly said. I mean,
And
you're
Divya, one
promoting what you're
important
doing it. Yeah.
and Divya has said, because sometimes the authenticity is something which comes out, because I always tell people
Yeah.
your action speaks more than your words, so better be
True.
careful. And
True.
everyone,
True.
irrespective of anyone, they understand
Yeah.
it. So
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
you're not doing it, it's better, because if DNI, as you rightly said, we are not practicing it, don't speak.
You
At least
cannot. Yeah. You cannot keep it with the. It doesn't align with your goals only for sure. Yeah. Yeah. Agree to that. Yeah.
and that's a point which got highlighted also, 31%, 33%.
Yeah.
Definitely, yes. So thank you so much for that. Now coming to you, Divya, of course, the point that we, just spoke about DNI. So how do you think the kind of impact does DNI have on an, EVP? Like, what is the value that you think does it provide to the employees, the probable candidates, and what is the organization? What are the organizations that can do something on this? Because as we said, a lot of people would just write randomly having a DNI policy in picture, but there aren't really. So, what are your thoughts on this?
Right. So, yeah, I live with the fact. In fact, we live with the fact that if you're practicing it, then you should be, making it public to the talent pool also. Because at times you might run a survey or you might do a QR code, something that, hey, we're hiring a differently enabled people, but we are actually not doing it, right? Maybe just to show people that, hey, we are highly promoting DNI. But I really feel that DNI is really important, because I think when you have inclusive people, working from different backgrounds, there's a lot of innovation which happens, right? I mean, getting same people from the similar industry or similar background, it doesn't drive any kind of new thinking, or it doesn't bring any new thinking or new value onto the table. But I think when you have diversified people in the company working, I think it brings a lot of changes, a lot of different thinking, and I think it improves the decision making also overall, right? In fact, not just in one function, but overall, right? I think, and it's a transparent communication as well, right? It should not never be like 90% of people are just promoting this. But I think when you have different, you debate also, right? Maybe one person would say, hey, I had this point to say. The other person would say, I had this point to say. So a lot of debating, a lot of debriefing, and I think a lot of different values which come on the table. So most importantly, I think transparent communication, no bias, good decision making, and I think lot of value it brings on the table, which I think improves your overall innovation. When I say innovation, it's not just about HR or not just manufacturing, but overall innovation in the ideas is something which I feel DNI brings on the table. Definitely, yeah.
Thank you so much for that, Divya. I'm sure everybody agrees with you on that point. And because of the time that we are reaching, it's just 15 minutes left. I want to hurry up with one question that I would still want to ask each one of you. Starting with Aritra, we talked about EVP. Of course, we have gone into depth of it. Of course, there's still a lot more to discover. There are still a lot of conversations that we as organizations, we as team leaders, we as employees of the company also need to have. But what do you think? How will EVP evolve in the coming years? I'm not gonna give you a target of 5 years, because wonders can happen in 5 years. But yes, in the near future, how do you think EVP will evolve?
Absolutely. Thanks, Ramya, once again. When I see the next 5 years, I think the first and foremost thing which comes into my mind is the hybrid model, the remote work. It's going to stay forever with us. It's not going to go away. So work-life balance and integration will be definitely, it will be the key and one of the, topmost EVP for the upcoming years. And parallelly, balancing it with the well-being, the wellness programs which we drive, it should continue because we have learned a lot. We have learned it in a hard way. And of course, DI initiatives should and focus on sustainability. These are a couple of things which all organizations are running. I think this overall next few years, I think these will evolve more, and these will be the key parameters for any organization to run apart from any other, any other focus which the organization can have. So I believe these are key from my end. Maybe Arvind and Divya has their own, you know, perspectives as well. Yeah.
Sure, sure. Thank you so much for it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. Please, please ask.
I think Aritra has already covered all the pointers, but I think
Mhm.
uh, Yeah, technology, invest in people. When I say invest in people, I mean, make sure that you are developing them, your internal workforce, so that they are at par with the, emerging technologies. They are at par with the current workforce. And I think at times I feel, I mean, go with the flow. And when I say go with the flow, I mean, you might have to incorporate a lot of things which maybe, I mean, you have the example, maybe post-COVID, every organization was running into work from home mode. Right now, things are changing. It was into a hybrid model. Now it's work from office, right? That's how organizations are following. Earlier, you might have seen like Meesho and companies like Swiggy, they were entirely on a work from home. Now they turned into a work from office model overall. That's how the companies are, doing. So I think to the pointers which Aritra has, already commented, I think I would just like to say, incorporate the emerging technologies, incorporate the current trend which other companies are also doing it. Maybe it could be anything, right? Probably you might not be able to think that way, but there are a lot of things which are happening in the current scenario, right? So I think incorporate, invest in people. I think take continuous feedback from the current employees, be consistent with your overall messaging which you are doing it. And definitely technology is something which is going to, drive a lot of things in your current thing. Yeah.
Sure. Thank you so much for that, Divya. Aravind, would you like to add
Yeah,
something?
I thought I'll just steal ideas from Aritra and Divya also. So fantastic. Just, I think summing up, I think any point of time when Divya was saying and Aritra was also reinforcing the fact, if you have to really look at the EVP, it is not today, like 2023, we have done it. Now for say at least 30 or 40, we're going to have it. It really requires year on year or maybe day on. I mean, basically, if you really believe as a talent acquisition champions, if you really believe it, it's something which you have to have. You have to keep your ears and everything on the ground to understand what is happening. Keeping that, it's always important to see things from 3 Ws. First is the work, if it is really giving that kick, because the so-called, I'm sorry again bringing Generation Z, but they look for something which really excites. It's no more that you have to join the best of the tech companies irrespective of anything. So work. Second is in terms of the work environment, is it really conducive, which is really giving me that kind of also appetite to learn, unlearn and relearn. Third, the culture which is stimulated or engineered by the so-called leaders. It might sound a little bit of gyan, but then it's quite simple, because if you really want someone to make, if you want to make someone feel understood, if you want to make someone feel really so-called autonomy and all those kind of words, empowered, which we heard, and if you really feel someone to be someone to really feel valued, and the most important, if you want to make someone feel cared, and the last but not the least, if you want someone to be feeling the bigger purpose, all these 3 elements or these 3 Ws is something which has to be re-engineered year on year, or maybe at least 6 months, so that you will understand, okay, this is what our people want. Because at the end, when someone is joining, he or she is also looking like, what is that I get when I contribute X number of time, effort and energy to the organization. So 3 lenses, the work environment and the work culture is something which you can think of when you have to really look at the experience value proposition. Thank you.
Definitely, that really helps. Thank you so much, Arvind, Divya, Aritra, all of you for sharing these great insights with us. This was, I'm sure I have taken my notes. I hope everybody else also has. If not, no, don't worry at all. As I said, the video would be there on our website, will be sent to you. Also, we will be creating a very insightful blog out of this conversation, which will be published, and you can always access it and get all the I must say all the keywords that Arvind has been highlighting, 3 Ws, rad and all of that. Very fascinating for a Gen Z also. I think when you have these very catchy terms, they get more attracted towards it, and it's of course all the elements combined into one. So thank you so much to each one of you for sharing such wonderful insights with you. This was a great conversation today, and I hope you also enjoyed the conversation as much
Yes.
as I did. Now, of course, this is not the end yet. We have a lot of questions coming in from the audience also. But before we do that, I just want to launch one more poll questions for the audience today, just to get their perspective on how this session helped. Of course, there are more questions coming in, but after listening to the experts today, how likely are you to revise or enhance your organization's EVP? Of course, considering all the points that we discussed, it's very important that it helps as well. So Okay, I see 25% of you have already participated. I would urge all of you to participate. And in fact, not just with this poll, of course, I see some questions in the audience Q&A. We will take them up, but not just questions. If you also have any share, insights, any anecdotes, any thing that worked for your organization, please feel free to share with us in the chat. We would love to know, maybe some elements that you would like us or the organizations that you would want to recommend. So please do that. And I see mixed responses, but yes, if I can take the majority of it, people are saying very likely and somewhat likely. So there's a lot of likeliness. There's one person not really sure if they would want to, and unlikely. So I would want to applaud the unlikely person, because that means that you have already been doing these kind of strategies. You have already
Absolutely.
implemented this, which is great, which is always great. And with the elements that you already have, and with the trends that all our three leaders shared today, it's important that we keep revising our EVP strategies as per the market demands, or as we evolve with the day. So thank you so much, everybody, for your participation on this. Let's move on to the audience Q&A. I'm sure a lot of you are already interested. So there's one question from Sid, who's asking, hi Divya, this is for you specifically. Will it be rightful to say that Gen Z as of now are more aligned towards quality what they or the respective employer, more than concerned about salary or any other things? I think we did talk about this in length. So yes, your views on this.
Okay, so I think, yeah, definitely quality is important because you need to hire a right talent in any organization. But monetary is also important. I think it varies. I mean, I think I would say quality definitely. I mean, it's definitely important, but I think it differs from company to company. Probably if you're working in a mid-scaling organization or a scaling startup, right? There, both the factors would be taken into consideration. Quality versus compensation. Yeah. But probably if you're working in a big MNCs wherein even if you have to promote a lot of other measures, be it hiring a differently enabled or anything, they can still incorporate it. But I think companies or mid-scaling startups will not be able to do it because they have limited funds and they are in a scaling mode, right? So there, I think both the factors will be taken into consideration. But compared to the companies which are able to incorporate it, right? They'll be able to even hire a less less qualified talent, to get inclusive workforce, even if the person is coming on any cost, because they'll be able to incorporate it because of the brand value they have in the market.
Okay, thank you so much for that, Divya. I hope that answers the question for you, Sid. If you have any feedback on that, please do share with us. Next question is for Aravind. Aravind, what is the 3W? Can you share again? I told
Okay.
you, right? People would be interested.
Okay, fantastic. Oh, so my experience is raised. So thanks for that experience value proposition. Okay, it's actually the three lenses which I just told from other panelists. Most important is the work, because you look at anything, you have to make an employer value proposition or an experience value proposition. It's the first interaction. That's a first touch point you have with the organization. So the work is the most important. How can you align it? So earlier, I'm sure some of us would have known something called a job characteristics model. All those things are still relevant in the organization, so we at least do it. So second one thing is called the work. Second is the most important in terms of the work environment. The so-called environment is really conducive. Is it giving you something very challenging, or it's really creating the monotony in your life? Third, the most important, where you spend a lot of your time, is basically in terms of your so-called culture, which is again shaped by the leaders. Walk the talk. They say there is this one, they say there is a lot of freedom and autonomy, and then they say no, you cannot think beyond this. So that means the psychology safety is at risk. So all these words have got its own importance. So work environment, and the work culture. I think these are the three W's which you can always re-engineer as leaders or as an HR champions. I think these three levers, if you put it right, you can build any kind of things, and you don't have to speak more about the employee value proposition, because that becomes walk the talk outside also. They say I happen to work here because the work is so great, the work environment is really great, and the culture which the leaders have said, it is really happening. It's not something which you happen to see in the walls. So that's what I feel.
Sure. Thank you so much for sharing that,
Thank you.
Arvind. Next question is, hi speakers, if all of you can share your inputs here. Nudging the talent to stay with the organization can be a challenge in the current trend. So the management also thinks twice before investing in EVP initiatives. what are your thoughts on it? How we can, overcome this challenge that we face?
Let me take this up, Rocky, and
Interesting.
thanks. Interesting. Yes, absolutely. So first and foremost, I would like to let you know, I hope I have the name of the person who has asked the question. So,
It's an anonymous attendee.
okay, okay. I'm sure you're listening. So, EVP is not a initiative, first and foremost. Let
Mm,
me correct you, right? So, your company culture and all the parameters and the key elements which we discussed in this entire call, you may want to reflect back and hear us more to understand what a EVP comprises of and what are the key elements that forms EVP, right? When you have a fair understanding of this, you can understand that what your organization is striving for and wanting to achieve to have a EVP in place. And while we have discussed about EVP, we have all of us idly as speakers, we have gone ahead and stressed on the part that we have to be adaptive. We have to hear our people, we have to ensure that the right feedback comes to our ears, and we work on and adapt and customize our whatever processes we are following within the organization. So EVP in a nutshell is not an initiative. It's what you are going to create for your people to build a greater organization. So I will like my colleagues to also chime in over here. Arvind.
Thank you for that, Aritra. Anything that Divya, you or Arvind, you would like to add to this?
No, no, I think already covered. I think we've already covered all the points. It's totally in sync with whatever Ritra spoke. Yeah.
Sure. Thank you so much for that. I'll just move on to this question, which is there. I think this organization is maybe starting out with their EVP strategies, or they're new to this. They're asking if we want to scratch from the very beginning. If there's nothing in place, then how we can go about it? What is it that we should start it from, and what should be the first step that we can take here? So, anybody of you would like to take this up?
I think I can take it up because I faced okay. So I think to start with, I think you don't have to. I mean, because EVP is a lifelong journey, right? You
absolutely.
cannot just define your organizational goals because it's going to be evolving, right? Today it looks different, tomorrow it's going to be different. And I think when you work in a company, and it's very difficult to understand what your internal employees also need it, right? Because perception can vary from person to person. Maybe to one person it can be the compensation, to other person it can be career opportunity, to other person he's just working for the sake of working because he's serving a bigger purpose, right? So it can vary. And it's really difficult to sometimes create a compelling EVP, as in what your organization needs or what your employees need and what you need to, show it to the external world. I think just to start with, start simple. When I say start simple, I mean, it can be anything, right? I mean, simple, just start posting your employee stories, as in how your company has supported you in your growth, or what is that one thing which motivates you to work in that company. Start posting simple job opportunities, as in kind of recruitment initiatives which you're taking, simple benefits, even if you're not doing to the high level, simple benefits which you are taking, maybe any simple benefits. Start highlighting, start showing it to the external world. Maybe some simple checkups or any wellness activity you're doing that. I think start with simple. You don't have to go to a high level, because I think when you start simple, I think you are already there and you don't even realize when you connect back the dots, you don't even realize. So start simple, start showing your employee stories, start doing some job postings, highlight all your new joiners post, whosoever is joining from different background, because you are any which way showing that what kind of inclusive people you're getting from the outer world. Small any kind of external trends which are there in the market, and whatever you feel, the leadership talks, maybe your leadership team, all these things. I think if you start with, I think you're already there, right? You don't have to think big, because when you think big, you are already messed up with a lot of small things which you're not even doing it in the background. In fact, if you see companies like Myntra, Meesho, and a lot of companies who are doing this, they're just promoting the employees no matter what, right? And I think when you look back, you see you're already there. So I think all these things matter. Yeah.
Sure. Thank you so much for that, Divya. I hope that answers the question for Afrin Shama as well, who had the similar question on how to set up an EVP. So thank you so much for that, Divya. There's one question for you, Arvind, from Bhumika Parmar,
Oh,
which says, if you would like to take this out.
yeah, sure.
Yeah. Three things Arvind has said can repeat again. You were talking about, I think this was the question during our discussion where we talked about having, again, I think you can just point out about employee engagement or retention thing, because it's just flexibility which is mentioned there. Since we
Okay.
are talking about EVP, something that you would like to highlight.
Okay. For me at least, when I'm talking about EVP, and it can be any kind of models for that matter. It's first it can be 4 or 5, whatever you want to put it in the plate. Most important thing, if you look at an EVP, I'm just reiterating again what Divya said now. Start small. It's not about big things in life. First and foremost, if you have to have work environment and the culture in place, it's all about deeper connections, the relationship at work, the social, because at the end when you look at, it's all about understanding each other, socialization aspect, deeper relationship at work. Second is bringing flexibility in your so-called work. It's not about saying that we have working from home and then finally you don't give that, and it's again the walk the talk. Flexibility in terms of, again, in terms of not work, many aspects are there where you give them a freedom to really express. That's where your psychological safety and other kind of things also happen. Third, I join your organization because I feel at the end I learn a lot. There is something where I can really take away in terms of my growth. If someone is saying this is the ROI of joining this organization, it's in terms of making X to move to the 10X kind of this one. Most important, the fourth point would be around the holistic well-being. If you look at even your DNI, all these things are not facts, but if you look at the generation, they want to see that, okay, it's not about having a gym, but at least there is something like my manager is providing me a coaching kind of this one, wherein he is also enabling my mental well-being also. And that is very important. Most of the people, if you look at, they're not just leaving because they are not getting the salary. They also feel now along with the work, they also equally need to be respected, valued also. And for that, mental well-being is very important. Last but not the least, most important, are they contributing to the bigger purpose, connecting the forest to the trees and trees to the forest? Are they able to, through their words, action and thoughts, are they part of the, are they able to deliver value, impact and contribution to the something called the work? And that's what they look up to. I don't know whether that answers. Thank you.
No, I think it definitely does. Adds a lot of value to our conversation today. Thank you so much for sharing that, Arvind. Thank you so much, all of you today. This was a
Would allow
wonderful
that.
conversation that we had. And before we end, can we please have the PPT on screen? So, as promised in the beginning, for all the audience, this will be shared with you. The recording of the session today will be shared with you on your email ID. And also, this will be available on our YouTube channel. There will be a blog which will be published on the website. You can create all the insightful information as much as you want to. And apart from that, we also have a Grey Tribe community, which is a knowledge sharing platform. You can see the link on the screen. You can sign up to this community today, and we have HR industry leaders, experts who you can connect on this community for free and ask questions that you have, maybe share insights, share experiences that you have. Let's make this forum a place where we can come, ask questions, share insights. So please feel free to join in. We already have over 5,000 members in this Great Web community. And apart from this, if you have any more questions, you can also connect with us on WhatsApp. The QR code is there on the screen. You can scan this, and any questions that you have related to the session, related to webinars, or related to the product that we have, Great HR, our HRMS platform, you can ask, and we'll be happy to help you there. Also, before we end the session, we have another session planned on 1st August, which is on Union Budget 24-25, which was announced yesterday. So any one of you who's interested, you can sign up for the webinar. I will just share the link with you all here in chat, so you can register. Just give me a moment. I'm going to share it with everybody. Okay. I've sent it. It should be visible to you on chat. You can just click on this, register, and we'll see you at the session that day. Once again, thank you so much to all of you for sharing and making this conversation so fruitful and so enlightening today for all of us. The values that you shared, all the feedback that you had for us, all the insights that you shared is definitely valuable, and all of us at within our capacity should work and try to implement as much as we can. Thank you so much for your presence today here with us. And one more thing, before we log out, I would like to launch one more poll for our audience specifically, just to understand their feedback and any suggestions that they have for the webinar today specifically. We would urge all of you to participate and let us know your feedback. Thank you so much, everybody. And thank you so much, especially Aritra, Divya, and Aravind, for being here with us today. Thank you so much.
Thank you.